He says he pushes his hand through the side of my tire, and there's a slash on my tire that's about this big. And I think, and now I'm sitting here and I'm still getting these shivers running through me because I was driving 225, 230, 240. I clocked the car. My daughter was in the car, my wife was in the car, and I could have died. My name is Malik. Everyone calls me Malik. I'm from South Africa, and I've been in the UAE now for around 6 years. The opportunity I would get, I would jump behind the car wheel, steering wheel. My father would shout me a lot for that. At the time, he was, a person who followed rules quite strictly. So he was like, no, if you don't have your license, you cannot drive. But he used to push the rules around sometimes, and yeah, so I started driving at the age of 16, really, and 18 I got my license. And basically since then, never stopped driving. Before that, the cars that I owned, my first car was a BMW 325i E30, box shape. In South Africa, it's known as Kushesh. It's very well known, especially for drifting and for spinning. I fell in love with the car. I loved the car since I was 10 years old, I think, and it was my life's aim to get one day. And how it worked that I actually got to this car was a very interesting story. That's why the car has a lot of sentimental value. That is why 21 years later, till today, I still own the car. And yeah, it's a magical story. What had happened is a friend of my father-in-law used to buy and sell cars in South Africa. At that point in time, I didn't know my wife at all. I was just, some stranger. But when it happened that I got to meet my wife, I got to start seeing that car around because father-in-law's friend was driving it around. And the first day I saw that car, I'll never forget it, my jaw dropped really to the ground. It was a car that my wife always wanted as well, even before she knew me. So we both have the passion for that car. Now my daughter loves it as well. And yeah, she tried to get the car from her father's friend. And her father always said, nah, you know what, you're a girl. And you shouldn't be driving a car like that, the typical story fathers. And no, you cannot get it. Even though the friend was ready to give that car to her on a monthly payment basis. And she was working at the time. She was like, I'll pay for it myself, I'll take it. And the father was like, no, you can't have it. So she was really, her whole spirits dropped. And, it was God's grace that we met. And we married now 20 years. And when she met me, I fell in love with the car because the guy was still driving it. And I went to him and I asked him, it's like, will you sell me the car? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll sell you the car. A lot of people came to us and said, you know what, don't buy the car. It's expensive on fuel. You're just starting your life now. Maintenance is quite crazy on the car, so you would spend a lot on the car than anything else. And, I listened to everyone's advice, and my heart took the better of me, and I said, to hell with everyone and everything, and I'm buying it. Experiences I've had with that car, and the reason why I say it's sentimental value is, I believe in God, of course. I believe there's a God and He's watching over me all the time. I've had 3 or 4 very, very fatal experiences with the 325i. One particular one is, I'll tell you, is the very first one. I was driving from Johannesburg to Durban with my family. My wife, we had just been married for a couple of years at the time. My daughter was probably around 2 years old or 3 years old, baby, in the front seat, sitting in my wife's arms. And was careless. I know it was one of those days, your young days, you didn't think too much about it. But me driving, coming back from Durban and driving at probably 225, 230 kilometers an hour, beautiful straight roads, those are the opportunities to really open up your car and get the full potential of it. And driving back. And the day I was driving back home to Johannesburg, the very next day I was going to put on a new wheel on my car. So I had to get home that night, get a good night's sleep because early the next morning I had to go to the workshop, put in the wheel and change some stuff and whatever you. We reached home around probably 11, 12 midnight, somewhere around there, parked the car off, got the stuff out of the car, went to sleep, woke up next morning, went to the garage. The guy at the workshop pulled off my wheels and he said to me like, excuse me, Mr. Malik, like, can you come here for a moment? I'm like, yeah, sure, like, what's up? So he says, how are you still alive? Like, he says, like, what kind of a question is that? Like, He says, come and have a look here. And so I go there to the wheel, to the one wheel. It was the front left-hand side. He says he pushes his hand through the side of my tire, and there's a slash on my tire that's about this big. And I think, you know, and now I'm sitting here and I'm still getting these shivers running through me because I was driving 225, 230, 240. I clocked the car. My daughter was in the car, my wife was in the car, and I could have died. I never lost tire pressure, nothing. That's like God is there, and God alone knows how this happened. But anyway, I had a slash in my tire that was, I could put my hand through it, basically. And I survived, and I made it, and I came through. I was driving to Cape Town. Cape Town is from Johannesburg, 1,700 kilometers. We had 5-car convoy. I was right at the back as the last person. I had a friend right in the front, and we had a couple of people in the middle who were beginners. Guys went, it was a 2-lane, I was driving around 120, 130 kilometers an hour, overtaking a bus. The bus is going, as I passed the bus, the cars had gone, I was the last one. As I came, a goat ran front. So it's farm roads. I tell you, the E30 was dropped, so it hit the radiator hit back into the fan blade, into the fan. And the car sort of jumped and hit down, and yeah, so it was stupid of me. I shouldn't have done it. I carried on driving for about 2 kilometers slowly. Like driving, I saw the heat gauge, everything was fine, carried on. Eventually, heat gauge went this way. Petrol was, as usual, this way on the 325. Heat gauge went this way. I was like, no, I started to worry. Flashed the guys in front of me, called them up, said, hey, hold on, I need to pull off. Like, you know, pulled off. Yeah, so blew the head gasket. Head gasket gone, stuck in the middle of nowhere, only farms. What do I do? All the guys pulled up, they came back, whatever. There was a garage, petrol station, one of those big ones like the Ednox you get to Abu Dhabi. Pulled out, the guy told me till there. It was dark, so we couldn't do anything at night, waited for the next morning. Woke up the next morning early when the sun came out, opened up the bonnet. Sludge. You only see sludge. Oil and water had mixed already. Man, goodbye engine. I had my car towed with a Nissan Almera. If you know what a Nissan Almera is, it's a 1300. He towed my car. Okay, so respect to that car. The car was falling apart, the guy's car. It was like shocks were like messed up, everything, but he towed me. Long story short, it's a very big, long experience, but dropped the car off at an approved mechanic who then redid my whole head for me, everything. But he was one of those dodgy ones who wanted to take a shortcut. Left my car with him, jumped in with my friends. We went to Cape Town. We had a blast. We had a beautiful holiday, oceanside, whatever, 2 weeks. Guy phones me back, sir, your car's ready. We took it for a test drive. It's moving 100%. He took it for a test drive, and so okay, fine, good, guys, let's move meeting back to Joburg now. On our way back, stopped there, picked the car up, started it up. Oh, it sounded like a dream. I missed my car like hell. Stopped at the fuel station, filled it up, pushed through. The next 200 kilometers was going to be desert road. Like if you've been to Vegas, Nevada, nothing, all right? It's called the Karoo in South Africa. Only desert, only sand, those ball of weeds rolling past you. You'll think a cowboy's probably going to come up from somewhere. As I'm driving, the needle goes back to heating, so it starts overheating. I'm like, shit, no, not again. I just paid like probably $1,000, $1,500, something to get it fixed up. Now again, phone the guy up. He says, no, can't do anything. You're very far from my workshop. My friend is in the next town. He's got an approved workshop. Why don't you take it to him? We'll sort it out for you, whatever. Long story short, went there, had the car towed again, dropped the car off, went back to Johannesburg. A month later, the guy phones me, struck my whole engine, struck everything. So he was going to try and cover up for the poor workmanship the previous guy did. And he told me, sir, your block has got a hole in it. Nah, cannot be. I didn't drive it after the motor blew to get a hole in the block? No ways, you're lying. Okay, fine. I will come and pick my car up. I'll take it to Johannesburg to my home, and I will investigate what had happened here. So I got an investigator to come in. So he was a forensics guy. This is a guy who deals specifically with vehicles. I'm not sure if you get them in UAE, but hired him for around probably $500, I think it was. He came in. I collected my car. I went with the trailer. I'll never forget. The same guy bought the car for me. He had a double cab van. Booked the trailer, picked the car, brought it to Joburg. Hired the guy to investigate what had gone wrong. I mean, it was like an autopsy. He had a white table like this, long, probably 3 meters long. Every part on my car laid on the table. He had on the gloves, and he went through every bit and piece. The final report was a 25-page report he gave me, and the final reason for the car overheating again after the guy fixed it is because he used the same head bolts on the car. If you use the same head bolts, it stretches, right? So there's going to be the gap. Guess what? It leaked out again. So I had a case now. So went to my lawyers. My wife handled the whole thing, actually. She's the legal head. She's the legal part. She studied law as well. Got the lawyers involved. Summons the guy. Said, so he paid me out probably around $15,000 around there for the mishap, what he's done. And with that money, I took every cent of that money, took that car to BMW because we love the car so much and we knew it's something we're not going to sell. We spent that $15,000 on putting in a BMW engine on the whole new motor. Right now, as that car stands, it's in storage, but it's got a brand new motor that's probably got about 15,000 kilometers, 20,000 kilometers on the clock. That's it, from BMW. My washer rings for my hoses in the engine has got a BMW stamp. My bolts have got a BMW stamp. So when people heard I did this and they're like, are you crazy? Why? So it's like, for me, we love the car so much that we had no intention of selling it, you know. So at the end of the day, we'll put everything into it. So that's what we've done. So that was my first car, which I have till today.